Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Bennett, Chief of Staff at the Ohio Department of Higher Education, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar. Before I introduce our first speaker, I want to walk through a few brief housekeeping items just so we're all on the same page about how today's session will work. Today's session is primarily intended for leadership and key staff of Ohio's colleges and universities. We understand there are others with us representing behavioral health service providers and other important stakeholder groups. We welcome you to listen in. We appreciate your interest in learning more about this exciting opportunity. Please note the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services will be hosting a separate virtual session for providers, and they will be sharing the date and time for that rescheduled session with you soon. Today's session is being recorded, and the recording, as well as today's slide deck, will be made publicly available on our website following today's webinar. All attendees are joining the webinar today in listen-only mode. We know that you will have questions, and we certainly welcome those questions. However, due to the logistics of fielding live questions in a webinar format, we will not be offering a live Q&A opportunity today. Instead, please add any questions that you have in the chat for this meeting, and please identify your name and your organization along with your email address with your question, as sometimes attendees may only appear as a guest on our screens. Our teams will be collecting all the questions that are submitted today as they come in, and we will then be compiling and sharing a master FAQ document for your reference after today's session. With that, it is now my honor to introduce today's first speaker, our Chancellor of Higher Education, Mr. Randy Gardner.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Jim, for setting the stage for this webinar. What an honor it is to work in the DeWine Houston Cabinet, work with my friend and Director Lori Chris, who I'll introduce in a moment, and to have opportunities to work with people like you who are committed to a cause and doing important things all throughout Ohio to elevate the workforce, to provide education and services, and just together build a stronger and better Ohio. The Great Minds Fellowship has been a little while in coming, putting it together with a variety of stakeholders and interests. This is something the governor has elevated very early in his administration, is mental health and behavioral health and wraparound services supports. Many of you already know of his intense support for these things. But this one additionally speaks directly to the challenge of building a workforce in behavioral health, mental health, counseling services, and so forth. And so it's important for us to do all we can to invest, to support you, and to invest in students who have an interest in this subject, sometimes don't always get all the way to the workplace, don't sometimes finish their degree or their credential. And we want to assist in that in every way we can. And that's I think the background behind the Great Minds Fellowship and the intentional way in which we're going about trying to build these services for people in need throughout our state. $35 million specifically to colleges, universities throughout the state, basically to support degree completions and to provide some additional incentives to enter the workforce. It's also important to note that there is a formula associated with this, basically based on the types of categories of programming you have at an institution. But there may be other opportunities down the way as we continue to consult and work with you to support what you do or what you may be able to do in the future. So we really look forward to this being a continued partnership, an effort that's really important for our state, and hope that you'll learn a lot today and be excited about working with us. And then as there are questions, we want to answer every question and get as much feedback as we can as we make this the most successful program that we can. That's my brief remarks. I'm kind of the warm-up act for Director Lori Chris, Director of Mental Health and Addiction Services in the state, a really key member of Governor Wine's cabinet, doing some really important work, and it's an honor to work with her in this effort as well. Director Chris, welcome.
Thank you, Chancellor Gardner. I am so grateful to be here today with this wonderful opportunity for Ohio's behavioral health workforce. And Chancellor, I want to thank you and your whole team for the partnership in moving this work forward. Just the enthusiasm and excellence with which you've embraced it, and true partnership and friendship. It's been just a delight. And to all of the higher education partners on the call, we know that when we started into these conversations, we relied on you to tell us what would work, what wouldn't work. As Governor DeWine always says, listen to the people closest to the issues, believe them, and then act with urgency. And so that's really what we have done. And I think you'll see yourselves and your input here in what we outline with you today. So we can move on to the next slide, and I'll, you can move on. There you go. Get us started here with the whole presentation. So I thought it would be helpful to start by providing insight into the need driving this effort. Across Ohio, people of all ages and their family members are seeking care for mental health and substance use disorders in record numbers. And we are striving to meet those needs, but we are not currently able to do so. We have wait lists, we have unmet need. And this is true across the country, but we certainly know our responsibility here at home. In recent years, the mental health and addiction challenges faced by Ohioans have become more visible and in some cases more pronounced as well. Nearly 600,000 Ohio adults are estimated to have chronic psychiatric conditions, so a serious mental illness, and 2.3 million adults in Ohio are estimated to have any mental illness. So anxiety, depression, stress, chronic grief, those types of conditions. Additionally, more than 900,000 Ohioans are estimated to have a substance use disorder. That's alcoholism or an addiction to a drug. And meanwhile, across the US and in Ohio, the mental health of children and youth has worsened over the past 15 years. Between 2011 and 2015, youth psychiatric visits to emergency departments for depression, anxiety, and behavioral challenges has increased by 28%. And between 2007 and 2018, suicide rates among youth ages 10 to 24 in the US increased by 57%. So the need for the types of services that this workforce provides is one that we can sadly, but truthfully find data to show how challenging the circumstances are for our families today. So we know that to help more people find hope and healing, we have to grow the number of professionals in behavioral health careers, or what we call Ohio's wellness workforce. In a study that we completed in 2021, we saw demand for behavioral health services increased by 353%, while the workforce increased only by 174%. It's estimated that 2.4 million Ohioans live in communities without enough behavioral health professionals. That lack of trained, qualified professionals is the number one concern that we hear from mental health and addiction providers around Ohio, from family members, and from people living with and recovering from mental illness and substance use disorders. This is not unique to our state. Governor DeWine has made it a priority to grow Ohio's behavioral health workforce in order to have thriving communities and a thriving economy. And we know we must have healthy, thriving people to make those things happen. Our department has focused our strategic workforce development efforts around 4 areas that you can see here: increasing career awareness, supporting recruitment into the field, incentivizing retention, and supporting contemporary practice needs of our workforce. This work is informed by the people that we serve, the community organizations like Ohio's alcohol, drug, and mental health boards that plan for the delivery of services, and the providers who are on the front lines of delivering care. We're also focused on increasing the diversity of our workforce because it's important that Ohioans receiving behavioral health services see themselves in the professionals caring for them. This helps them grow in confidence and in trust in the workforce that is meeting their needs. The Great Minds Fellowship Program that we're talking about today supports the first three pillars of the work that you see here. And specific federal funding that's been made available through the American Rescue Plan Act allowed us to develop this effort for building the pipeline of behavioral health care providers and professionals who work specifically in Ohio's community mental health and addiction centers that provide care, treatment, and services to Ohio's Medicaid eligible population. Our goals with this work are to grow high quality training and academic programs in Ohio's colleges and universities and boost the number of qualified graduates who are trained and ready to enter our workforce in Ohio each year. This work is already happening in several Ohio colleges and universities, and we want to help you grow and expand it. Entering the behavioral health workforce is something that many people would be interested in if they knew more about it. I can tell you just from my own experience, I left Eastern Ohio, came to a school here in Central Ohio, Ohio State, and wanted to be an optometrist. And as I started taking classes, I was exposed to the field of social work and really found that that was my calling. And I just wasn't aware of that career as a young student or a student in college. As I became more aware of it, I found that it was a way for me to really pursue my interests in helping people in a healthcare field while also working in planning and policy work as well. So just a really great way for me to be able to pursue my interest in a STEM career while also using that in a community-driven healthcare-based environment as well. And I know from colleagues and friends who are also in the behavioral healthcare field that this is a really rewarding career that many people are in and stay in for their entire career. I'm 30 years in now. There are many others who would have looked at this as an opportunity if they had just known that it was available, or if the pathway to practicing in this field were easier for them. I was at a store the other day with my daughter. She's going to be doing her student teaching. I was helping her buy some clothes for that. And the clerk at the store told me that she was a social work student and how challenging it is to do her internship and to work and to go to school and how stressful that is for her. And I said, well, when you get back on campus, make sure you check out some opportunities with your school. There might be some great things coming your way in terms of scholarships and internships. And honestly, her jaw was dropped that there might be a way to help make getting this degree easier and less stressful for her so that she could quickly enter the field and start practicing. That's why we're doing this work, right? We're doing this to help young professionals enter the field and to increase that recruitment, to help retain people who are working in the field, helping them feel valued, seen, and appreciated and invested in. And I'm proud of the work that our teams from both our Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and the Ohio Department of Medicaid and the Department of Higher Education have come together to create these opportunities here. They've worked very closely together for months now, and we're excited to have this program launch for the upcoming fall semester. And so now I'm going to turn it over to some of them who are truly the experts here on the ground. Dr. Cheryl Rice from the Ohio Department of Higher Education, Zandaya Lawson from my team to walk you through the details. Dr. Rice, Zandaya, turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Director Chris. I really appreciate that introduction for this program. And I also wanted to say thank you for really setting the stage for positivity for the work that's going to be done here with this new program. The opportunities here before us are incredible and for all of our students across Ohio. So very excited to be able to be a part of this and introduce the next step and the next phase. So next slide, please. So just to give you an overview of the basis of the basics of this program, we have the opportunity to help support the goal of this program is to grow a talent workforce in behavioral health professions. So the participating colleges and universities will have this incredible opportunity to provide up to $10,000 per student during their undergraduate and graduate studies. And this can assist with costs of obtaining that eligible degree or certificate, very much so to the student that Director Chris mentioned at the store. This is for students in their final 2 years of study in the 5 key areas: social work, marriage and family therapy, mental health counseling, psychiatric and mental health nursing, and substance abuse and addiction counseling. These 5 areas will truly support the workforce needs of those incredible statistics that Director Chris mentioned in her earlier remarks. Next slide, please. With these eligible funding opportunities in those 5 key areas, the allowable expenses include many different aspects that help to support and incentivize our students to completion. Scholarship opportunities, again, up to $10,000 in scholarship opportunities. Perhaps it's helping with paid internships at community behavioral health centers. It could go towards license or certification prep or exam fees, and also other degree and certification expenses. So there's a variety of different allowable expenses to go along with this program. And we know that this up to $10,000 per student can really help to support these key areas of study. Next slide, please. And I'd like to introduce my colleague in this, Sandia Lawson.
Thank you, Dr. Rice, Chancellor Gardner, and Director Chris. So I'm going to just briefly touch on kind of the 3 elements that make up the Great Minds Fellowship. Dr. Rice already talked about kind of what the student can use while they're still in school to help get them over the finish line. And she kind of went through the menu of services and the menu that the students can use to help just get them over the finish line and into the behavioral health workforce. So in addition to that, we're also going to be, the department will be providing funding to our provider organizations, our community behavioral health centers, as was mentioned earlier, to help support the student's success within the internship. So any costs that are associated with quality supervision that students need, such as onboarding, any HR activities, equipment or training for those students, any supervisory supports that funding can help, again, with getting a student over the finish line. In addition to that, so that happens while the student is still engaged in their academic studies. And then once the student graduates, they'll have an opportunity to receive a hiring bonus and recruitment bonus through those provider organizations as well. So more information is going to come regarding those latter 2 opportunities as a part of this initiative. So next slide.
Great, thank you, Zendaya. Appreciate that. So let's talk about this $10,000, up to $10,000 worth of funding. On behalf of Chancellor Gardner, ODHE, the Ohio Department of Higher Education, will award scholarship funds to participating institutions. We will enter into a grant agreement that many institutions are very familiar with, as in partnering with initiatives with the Department of Higher Ed. And this grant agreement will specify the eligible SIPs, so the SIPs with those programs, and the total amount of funding that it's available to that participating institution. So for your convenience, we have collected not only those pathways, the career pathways, but also the SIPs that have been specifically identified for this particular program. So again, you see the SIP for social work programs, the marriage and family therapy, mental health counseling and counselor, psychiatric, mental health nurse and nursing, and then substance abuse and addiction counseling. So those are the specific SIPs that are eligible for this program. Next slide, please. So in this grant agreement, we will be asking the institutions to report information back to ODHE and other data points on what is the budgeting for the award, what's the max, the min of the scholarship amounts that you have awarded to students, How did you determine the eligible students? What students did you determine as eligible for the program? Anticipated completion dates, again, within that 2 years of completion of the program. And we will be also asking for other data points so that we can collect data from this wellness workforce that we're trying to build out. ODHE will reimburse the institution at the end of each term for the monies that have been distributed to student accounts. And that will also be explained in that grant agreement. Next slide, please. So by the end of day tomorrow, we will have a very complete program guidance on our website at highered.ohio.gov/greatminds. It's program guidance, and separate informational sessions will be provided to the providers coming soon, as they stated in the beginning. We will also be putting additional information on our website to help our colleges and universities with the guidance for this program. We'll have the overarching guidance document, plus a more specific technical assistance memo, as well as our FAQs that we'll be collecting from today's session and a recording of this webinar. So all of that can be found at highered.ohio.gov/greatminds by the end of tomorrow. We will collect that information and get that out on the website. So now it is my pleasure to introduce to you Jessica Lindley from OhioMHAS Quality Planning and Research Team. Jessica will now demonstrate the dashboard that's been created that will help you find community behavioral health centers and participating institutions to help communicate this partnership moving forward. So thank you for your time. Again, thank you, Director Chris and Chancellor Gardner, and of course, my partner, Zendaya, and I'll turn it over to Jessica.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much. Can everybody see my screen? Wonderful.
Yes.
So I have only a few moments here to show you this dashboard, so please bear with me for going through this very quickly. After I present this, I'm also going to post the direct link for you in the chat so you can peruse through the dashboard at your convenience. So this dashboard is embedded into our website. This is the landing page. You can see almost all of it right here. We have 3 buttons to the 3 sections of the dashboard, as well as contact information for the Great Minds program in general, and also contact information for getting updated information to us to upload into the dashboard. First button I'm going to show you is to the interactive dashboard, where the user can look at both providers and institutions of higher learning by county. So here's what the top of it looks like. We can't get all of it on the screen, but that's all of it there. So the first thing that you'll notice is that a lot of the elements are empty until you click on a county. Over at the left here, it gives a little bit of a description and some tips for how to use the dashboard. But when the user clicks on a county, it populates a county map that has all of the different eligible providers as well as the eligible institutions of higher learning. And it also populates the provider list and a higher education list. So all of those locations and sites that would be inside that county. If we go to the provider list, we start scrolling down and we see there's many different providers here. I'm going to click on one of them and it offers me a chance to go to their information sheet, which I will do. And it brings me to their information sheet that shows me where their sites are located in this particular county, as well as the locations of any campuses of higher learning in that county as well. It also displays the contact information that we got through a provider survey. And if I scroll down, it shows the different sites and locations and their estimated number of internships by field. So associate internships, social work internships by level, also counselor chemical dependency, if they have any bilingual opportunities for interns, and other internships that might be available, such as, for psychiatric nursing or things like that. I'm going to click the arrow to go back. You can also click on multiple counties at once. If you hold down Control and hit another county, it will actually generate, a larger list and show you all of the locations inside multiple counties. Next, I'm going to show you how to go to the information sheet for a school. So if you click on a school, it asks you if you want to go to the higher ed sheet. and you can do so. And again, all of the information that's displayed here was gathered through our survey to the colleges and universities. So here you can see for Ohio State, it has their eligible behavioral health programs listed here, along with the level of those programs and just listing the website so people would know where to go to get some more information. So in the interest of time, I'm going to click back on the home button, which brings us back to home. And I'm going to skip down here to the Institutions of Higher Learning dashboard. And here we see all of the colleges and universities that submitted responses to our survey. We did get information from many of the schools that we reached out to that we believe had eligible programs, but there still are many schools out there that we believe do have behavioral health degrees or certificates under these particular SIPs that we don't have responses for. So I'm just doing a really quick plug for the survey here. If you have a chance to scroll through this and you don't see your school's information listed and you think that we might be missing information or you want to fill out the survey, I'm going to put the link for that in the chat as well so you can get that information to us and I can update this dashboard ASAP. So this is all the same type of data that's in the individual school page that we just saw, but you can also use the filters here at the bottom to look for programs based on the field and based on the education level. So a user can scroll through here, see all the different offerings by all the different schools, or they can go over here and let's say they're interested in social work only. We'll unclick all and we'll click on the SIPs that only have to do with social work. And then we will also click on, let's do bachelor level. So by using those filters, the user can scroll through now and see all of the different universities in Ohio that have bachelor's level of social work, if that's what they're interested in looking for in entering. And again, we can use our home button to go back. I don't have very much time, but I'll just show you really quick. We have something very similar for the providers. Again, these are all of the providers that answered our survey. And if you are a provider and you see yourself on here and you don't have information on here or you believe your information is incorrect, I'll also post that link for that survey as well. But this is very similar. Scrolling through a very long list of lots of different providers, seeing the number of internships that they have available, and then using the filter to see what kind of services we're interested in. Let's do mental health. And then also you can look for a particular county. So we'll click on a few just to get a shorter list here. I'm going to return home. And again, I will put those links in the chat for you. And thank you for allowing me to display this for you.
Well, with that, I will quickly run through a little bit of the marketing for the Great Minds Fellowship. First, a quick word about the branding. The phrase Great Minds is meant to be bi-directional, focusing both on the talented person who is seeking education and work in a behavioral health discipline, as well as on the health of the people who will eventually be served by their professional expertise. So the phrase is intended to lift up both of these groups and provide hope for what they can both achieve. So with that in mind, getting a cohort of Great Minds Fellows involves making students aware of this program. So we do have a marketing toolkit that will be on the website, and I can also share this information with our campus communications directors. The webpage was listed previously, but it's our website, highered.ohio.gov/greatminds. You will find logo and branding guidelines, a one-pager that you are welcome to take and use on your campus. It provides some facts and Q&A about the program, some suggested social media posts, and an informational video with more information from the Chancellor and Director Chris. So that's just a little bit of information that you're welcome to use and co-brand if you would like with your campus logo to put around for students to learn more about the fellowship. And you can always contact me if you have any questions, and my information is on the website as well. I think we ran through all of this at one point or another. The marketing toolkit will be posted yet today on the website if it hasn't been already. The program guidance is coming tomorrow, and then we will have some additional answers to the questions being asked today, guidance for the behavioral health providers, and the dashboard demonstrational coming soon as well. With that, I will turn it back over to, I think, is Jim closing us out, Mr. Bennett?
Thank you, Jeff. And obviously, thank you so much to Director Chris and to Chancellor Gardner, to Dr. Rice and Zandaya, and Jessica as well, and everybody that supported the development of this initiative at the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services and Higher Education to get to this point. Director or Chancellor, I want to give you one last opportunity if you want to have any additional comments before we adjourn here today.
Well, Jim, thank you for helping organize this today and for all your great work with the Department of Mental Health as well, and to all of our teams that help make this happen. I can't help but look in the chats already, and I'm not going to answer all the questions. We try to be really prompt in responding to questions and needs, so we will make sure our teams do that. One of them was with respect to community colleges. Are they eligible because their students in the last 2 years? Well, yes, you are. In fact, and then another question was, are independent or private, not-for-profit college universities invited to be involved? Yes, you are. And you will know that certainly later this week, perhaps as soon as tomorrow, the level of involvement, at least from the data that we got from the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System, IPEDS. That's where we got our information with respect to graduations in these 7 SIP codes, these areas of the categories of completion and programming. So if there's anything that we didn't catch through IPEDS or that we didn't catch through the survey, we want to hear from you as well. No one is intentionally excluded. And if there's an error or if there's in any way that we should learn more, intensively from you as to what you have in these areas, we want to know that. So I mean that I can see perhaps 1 or 2 possibly that we might need to revisit. And if we do, we want to make this work. And we want everyone who can provide a better opportunity for Ohio's behavioral health, mental health counseling workforce. We want you involved with us. So that would be my only brief comments for now. And Director, you're welcome to look at the chat and provide your expertise if you'd like. But I really appreciate the chance to kick this off in this way. And we will work hard together as we help meet this need. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chancellor. I guess I'll just add a little more context to a couple of things that I'm seeing here in the chat. And one of them is about the funding source. This is being initiated through money that is one time, and it's specifically through the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services. So it is for those organizations, those provider organizations that are community-based and are providing mental health and addiction care to people who are Medicaid eligible. And so some of the limitations that we do have on how widely we can open the door here are related to the funding source. And but those community-based mental health and addiction services providers are in great need of a workforce. And I will tell you, they are tremendous career opportunities and wonderful training grounds for the behavioral health workforce. I worked in a community behavioral health center for 18 years. I thought I was going to work there about 3, and I loved it so much I stayed for 18 years. So these are really wonderful opportunities. There are hundreds of them around the state. In every county, there's an opportunity for students to have a high quality experience and to move into working in this workforce. So I hope that if you haven't already built relationships with them, you will, because one of the things we've been making an effort to do is really help those behavioral health providers not just think of themselves as deliverers of healthcare, but as employers of a specialized workforce. And so growing this relationship between higher ed, whether that's community colleges or universities, to create that relationship, that pipeline into a wonderful, meaningful career is something that we're emphasizing here. This Great Minds Fellowship is really exciting. Ohio is putting itself on the map once again as a leader in innovative opportunities in behavioral health, in higher education, in partnerships, and in growing this workforce. And I'm really proud of that. It's part of a larger behavioral health workforce strategy that our team is undertaking here. And I want to thank Zandaya for leading that work, being our internal champion to help drive this agenda forward. So there will be more information coming on a host of ways to connect with our department. But this Great Minds Fellowship is the first of many opportunities that we hope to continue growing and building this relationship from. All right, so many questions coming in. Jim, Zandaya will be answering those over time in writing to the participants. Is that right?
That is absolutely correct. We are assembling the questions as they come in right now. We will be working diligently throughout the rest of the day today, ASAP, to get answers. We won't wait until we have all of those answers to post the first version, right? So if we have the first list of answers to questions that are fairly straightforward, we'll get that posted ASAP. We'll add to it as we work on perhaps the more challenging questions or the more detailed questions, so that we can get that information on our website as soon as possible.
And Jim, one final, if I could, because we couldn't do this. Director Chris and I wouldn't have the honor of working on this if it wasn't for Governor DeWine, the DeWine administration, and the General Assembly for voting for these funds and providing the access to these are federal dollars, but they couldn't have happened without votes and the direction and support and actually the request of Governor Mike DeWine. So I think that's important to make sure people know that this is not just the director and I coming up with a program. It obviously took a lot of support from others in state government to help us arrive at this place today.
That's right. And so our job right now is to act with urgency, to get great outcomes, to demonstrate the value of this, not just for students in the workforce, but for the people who they'll be serving as well, and to set ourselves up for continued success and more opportunities in the future. Really appreciate all of you for being here today. Chancellor, would you like to say goodbye? Would you like the final word?
You can have the final word. As people know that they've heard me before, I'm basically your assistant in this regard, Director.
Well, thank you all. Watch for more information. I'm sure we've given you how to find us. This is going to be fast moving, and we appreciate all your patience with this and helping us make sure we get it right out of the gate. So look for the answers to these questions, more information to come. Find us here at Great Minds at highered.ohio.gov and stay in touch. We certainly will. Be well, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.